Why Zeus prefers the curse. Why would the most powerful god choose curses over annihilation? Because annihilation ends resistance, but curses preserve submission. A destroyed enemy is forgotten. A cursed enemy becomes a living monument to Zeus' authority. Each moment of their suffering reinforces the hierarchy of Olympus. Each whispered story spreads fear. Each memory discourages rebellion. In this way, Zeus rules not just through strength, but through narrative. His curses become myths within myths, stories told to frighten gods into obedience and mortals into reverence. Power, after all, is not only about what one can do, but about what others believe one will do. And with Zeus, belief is enough. The silent threat above Olympus. Perhaps the greatest terror of Zeus' curse is its silence. Thunder announces itself. Lightning reveals its path. But a curse may linger unseen, dormant, waiting. In some interpretations, Zeus allows challengers to rise precisely so that their fall will be more dramatic. He watches them gather followers, build confidence, even taste victory, only to unleash the curse when hope is strongest. This timing transforms punishment into spectacle. Olympus does not erupt into chaos when Zeus curses someone. It grows quieter. The gods look away. No one intervenes. Because everyone understands one truth. If Zeus has spoken, the outcome is no longer a question. The curse as the true throne. Zeus' throne is not built of gold or clouds. It is built of consequences. His true symbol of power is not the lightning bolt raised in his hand, but the unspoken fear that lives in every god's mind. What if he speaks my name next? This is the essence of Zeus' invisible weapon. It does not need to be used often. Its mere existence is enough. And as long as the curse remains absolute, Zeus' rule remains unchallenged. The curse as psychological domination. Perhaps the most horrifying aspect of Zeus' curse is that it often preserves consciousness. Death would be mercy. Oblivion would be escape. Zeus rarely grants either. In many myths, and in later fictionalized retellings, those cursed by Zeus remain fully aware of what they have lost. Their punishment is not only physical suffering, but psychological annihilation. They remember who they were. They understand why they are suffering, and they know it will never end. This transforms the curse into a weapon of fear more powerful than any thunderbolt. Other gods may kill. Zeus humiliates, deconstructs, and erases identity while keeping memory intact. His enemies do not simply fall, they become warnings. Olympus, in this sense, is not ruled by love or loyalty, but by anticipation of punishment. Every god understands that Zeus does not need to act immediately. The curse may arrive years later, at the moment of greatest confidence, when resistance feels strongest. This delay is intentional. It creates paranoia. It enforces obedience long before rebellion even forms. Words that bind fate. In some mythological traditions, even the Moirai, the fates, hesitate before Zeus' pronouncements. While they weave the threads of life, Zeus determines the pattern those threads must follow. His curse does not cut the thread, it knots it. This is why a curse from Zeus often manifests as a loop rather than a single event. Endless hunger, eternal punishment, repeated failure. The victim is trapped not in pain, but in repetition. Time itself becomes part of the torture. Fictional expansions of the myth often describe Zeus carving his curses into the fabric of the cosmos, sealing them with thunder so that no god dares to challenge them. To attempt to reverse such a curse would be to oppose not Zeus alone, but the law of existence itself. Part 1. The Curse, Zeus' invisible weapon of absolute power. Among all the weapons wielded by Zeus, none is more terrifying than the one that leaves no visible wound. Lightning may shatter mountains and storms may drown cities, but curses shape something far more fragile and far more permanent, destiny itself. To understand Zeus' dominance, one must look beyond the thunderbolt and into the spoken word, because when Zeus curses, reality obeys. In Greek mythology, speech is not merely communication, it is creation. The gods do not simply describe the world, they define it. And Zeus, as king of Olympus, holds the final authority over meaning, law, and consequence. His curse is not an emotional outburst, nor a moment of rage. It is a sentence passed by the highest court of existence. Once spoken, it cannot be undone, not by gods, not by fate, not even by Zeus himself. The nature of divine curses. Unlike mortal curses, which rely on hatred or desperation, Zeus' curses are rooted in cosmic order. They do not distort reality, they enforce it. In ancient belief, Zeus was not only the god of the sky, but also the guardian of Dike, justice, and Themis, divine law. Thus, every curse carried the weight of moral inevitability. To be cursed by Zeus was not merely to suffer. It was to be judged as fundamentally out of alignment with the universe. In darker mythological interpretations, Zeus' curse functions like a divine algorithm. Once a being violates a core law of existence, rebellion, hubris, betrayal, the system responds automatically. Zeus does not need to strike in anger. He simply declares the outcome, and the world rearranges itself to ensure that outcome comes to pass. This is why Zeus' curses often feel disproportionate to the crime. A Titan questions his authority and is condemned to eternal torment. A mortal defies divine order and is transformed into a creature of horror. The punishment is not meant to be fair by human standards. It is meant to be unforgettable. In the realm of Greek mythology, Zeus is not merely the king of the gods, but the embodiment of authority itself. From the summit of Mount Olympus, his presence is felt not only through lightning and storms, but through the invisible weight of absolute judgment. Thunder is not just a weapon in his hand. It is the final word, the law from which there is no appeal. To defy Zeus is to challenge the very order of the cosmos. His voice carries the power to reshape destiny, and every curse he utters is woven into the fabric of fate. Unlike mortal punishment, the wrath of Zeus does not end with death. His curses are designed to endure, to haunt, and to remind all beings, gods and mortals alike, that rebellion comes at an unbearable cost. In whispered legends and darker interpretations of myth, Zeus is portrayed as a god who understands fear as a tool of governance. He does not strike impulsively. He observes. He waits. And when the moment arrives, his judgment descends with terrifying precision. Those who rise against him are not always destroyed. Some are condemned to live, fully aware of their downfall, trapped in eternal suffering as monuments to failed defiance. These curses serve a greater purpose than vengeance. They are warnings carved into existence itself. Every scream echoes across Olympus. Every punishment becomes a lesson etched into the memory of the divine realm. Order is preserved not through mercy, but through consequence. This is the world ruled by Zeus, a realm where power is unquestionable, justice is merciless, and fate bends beneath the weight of thunder. Before the storm breaks, all stand equal in fear, for once Zeus speaks, destiny itself obeys. Part 2. The Defiers, the price of rebellion against the king of Olympus. Every empire defines itself not by those who obey, but by those who dare to resist. In the age of gods, rebellion was not a political act, it was a metaphysical crime. To rise against Zeus was to reject the structure of the universe itself, and history remembers such figures not as heroes, but as warnings. Zeus' reign was forged in rebellion. He overthrew Cronus, shattered the Titans, and rebuilt the cosmos from the ruins of primordial chaos. Yet this victory planted the seed of a paradox. If Zeus himself rose through defiance, then defiance would inevitably rise against him. The difference lay not in the act of rebellion, but in who possessed the authority to survive it. The illusion of strength. Those who opposed Zeus often did so believing they had discovered a flaw in his dominance. Titans relied on ancient power. Gods relied on alliances. Mortals relied on cleverness or divine favor. Each believed they had found a path around Zeus' authority. None understood that Zeus allowed resistance to exist precisely to expose its futility. In darker mythic retellings, Zeus is not threatened by rebellion. He is entertained by it. He watches challengers grow confident, even reckless. He allows them to win small victories, to gather followers, to feel the intoxicating sensation of standing against the storm. This is not weakness. It is strategy. For Zeus understands that power is most convincing when it is challenged and still prevails. The Titans, power without legitimacy. The Titans were the first to pay the price of defiance. They possessed raw, ancient strength, born before order had fully formed. But their power lacked legitimacy. They ruled through force alone, without law, without balance. Zeus' war against them was not merely a conflict, it was a redefinition of authority. When the Titans fell, Zeus did not simply destroy them. Many were imprisoned, condemned to eternal darkness, crushed beneath mountains, or bound within Tartarus. Their punishment was symbolic. Power without order is not worthy of existence. In fictionalized interpretations, the Titans remain conscious in their imprisonment, aware that the cosmos now thrives without them. Their suffering is not only physical, it is existential. They are relics of a rejected reality, kept alive as reminders of what happens when strength challenges sovereignty without purpose. The gods who doubted. Not all rebellion came from ancient monsters. Some came from Olympus itself. Gods who questioned Zeus' decisions often framed their dissent as justice, balance, or reform. They believed Zeus had grown too harsh, too absolute. But dissent among gods was more dangerous than any Titan uprising, because it threatened the illusion of unity. Zeus' response to such dissent was rarely immediate. He understood that open punishment would fracture Olympus. Instead, he isolated the dissenters. He stripped them of influence, eroded their worship, redirected fate so that their voices faded into irrelevance. When punishment came, it was subtle, surgical, and devastating. In myth and fiction alike, these gods do not fall in battle, they disappear. Forgotten, ignored, powerless. In a pantheon sustained by belief, obscurity is a fate worse than death. Mortals who reached too high. Mortals who defied Zeus often did so unknowingly, driven by ambition, pride, or desperation. Their crime was not malice, but hubris, the belief that the divine could be challenged or equaled. Zeus' punishment of mortals was often theatrical. Transformations, endless labor, eternal suffering. These stories spread quickly among humanity, reinforcing the boundary between mortal and divine. The message was clear: progress is allowed, ambition is tolerated, but transcendence without permission is forbidden. In fictional expansions, Zeus' treatment of mortals becomes even more chilling. Some are granted near-divine power, only to have it stripped away at the moment of greatest triumph. This deliberate rise and fall reinforces Zeus' ultimate control over fate itself. Rebellion as a necessary evil. Why does Zeus allow rebellion at all? Because a rule never tested is never proven. Zeus understands that fear alone cannot sustain an empire forever. Rebellion provides contrast. It sharpens authority. It renews the myth of invincibility. Each failed uprising strengthens Zeus' legend, reinforcing his dominance across generations. In this sense, rebellion is not a threat, it is a ritual, a cycle, one that always ends the same way. The cost etched into eternity. The true cost of defying Zeus is not suffering. It is erasure from possibility. Those who rebel are removed from the future. Their stories end where Zeus decides they must end. They are denied redemption, denied evolution, denied legacy. In the end, rebellion against Zeus does not change the system. It validates it, and Olympus stands unchanged. Part 3. The Judge of Fate, Zeus and the Throne of Absolute Order. At the summit of Olympus, beyond thunder and flame, Zeus does not rule as a warrior alone. He rules as a judge. His greatest power is not destruction, but decision, the authority to determine what is allowed to exist and what must be erased. In this role, Zeus transcends kingship and becomes something far more terrifying, the final interpreter of fate itself. While the Moirai weave the threads of life, it is Zeus who decides which patterns are permitted to endure. Fate may describe possibilities, but Zeus defines limits. Within those limits, gods and mortals may struggle, rise, and fall, but never escape. Law above power. Zeus' authority is often misunderstood as brute force, yet force is merely its surface expression. Beneath it lies law. Zeus embodies Themis, the sacred order that governs gods and cosmos alike. His judgments are not impulsive, they are absolute. Once delivered, they do not invite debate, negotiation, or mercy. In darker interpretations, Zeus exists as the point where chaos is permanently denied re-entry into the universe. Every act of judgment reinforces the boundary between what is permitted and what is forbidden. To challenge Zeus is not to challenge a ruler. It is to challenge reality's right to remain stable. The illusion of free will. Perhaps the cruelest aspect of Zeus' rule is that it allows choice, just not escape. Gods may doubt him. Mortals may defy him. Paths appear open. But all roads exist within a system designed to ensure the same end: Zeus' supremacy. Free will, under Zeus, is a controlled experiment. Choices are allowed only so long as they confirm the inevitability of order. Those who stray too far are not corrected. They are removed. In fictional expansions, Zeus is portrayed as knowing every outcome before it occurs, yet permitting events to unfold so that judgment appears earned rather than imposed. This preserves the illusion of fairness while guaranteeing control. Judgment as eternal memory. Zeus does not simply punish. He preserves the memory of punishment. Every curse, transformation, and eternal sentence becomes a story embedded into myth. These stories are not warnings for the guilty. They are lessons for the obedient. Olympus remains stable not because rebellion is impossible, but because its consequences are unforgettable. Zeus understands that memory governs behavior more effectively than fear alone. The throne beyond challenge. By the end of every myth, one truth remains unchanged: Zeus endures. Titans fall. Gods fade. Mortals vanish. But Zeus remains seated above the storm, untouched by the passage of time. His throne is not defended by walls or armies, but by inevitability. To oppose Zeus is to participate in a story whose ending is already written. Resistance only enriches the myth of his dominance. Conclusion: the silence after thunder. When Zeus has judged, the universe grows quiet. Not in peace, but in submission. Order is restored. The sky clears. And life continues within the boundaries he has set. Zeus does not need worship. He does not require love. All he demands is acceptance. Because in a cosmos shaped by thunder and law, one truth stands eternal. Zeus does not merely rule the world. He defines the limits of existence itself. Part 2. The Defiers, the price of rebellion against Zeus. Chapter 1. The necessity of rebellion. No empire survives without resistance. In the cosmos ruled by Zeus, rebellion is not an anomaly. It is an inevitability. Power so absolute invites challenge not because it is weak, but because it defines the boundary of existence itself. To test Zeus is to test the limits of reality, and throughout myth, many have attempted to do exactly that. Zeus understands this truth better than any god. His own rise was born of rebellion. He overthrew Cronus, shattered the Titan order, and replaced primordial dominance with structured sovereignty. In doing so, Zeus created a universe where rebellion was no longer chaos, but choice. And where choice exists, defiance will follow. Yet Zeus never feared rebellion. He anticipated it. Yet Zeus never feared rebellion. He anticipated it. In darker mythological interpretations, rebellion functions as a diagnostic tool. It reveals who misunderstands power, who overestimates themselves, and who confuses strength with legitimacy. Yet Zeus never feared rebellion. He anticipated it. In darker mythological interpretations, rebellion functions as a diagnostic tool. It reveals who misunderstands power, who overestimates themselves, and who confuses strength with legitimacy. Zeus allows challengers to emerge because each failed uprising reinforces the hierarchy he governs. Resistance becomes proof of order rather than its undoing. Those who rebel believe they are breaking free. In reality, they are stepping into a role Zeus has already prepared for them: the psychology of the challenger. Every challenger to Zeus shares a common flaw. They mistake visibility for vulnerability. Thunder is loud. Lightning is dramatic. Zeus appears reactive, emotional, even flawed. This illusion invites opposition. But Zeus' true power is patience. He rarely strikes immediately. He observes patterns, ambitions, and alliances. He allows dissent to grow, knowing that confidence is the most reliable precursor to collapse. By the time rebellion becomes visible, its outcome has already been decided. In this way, Zeus transforms rebellion into ritual, a performance with a predetermined ending. Chapter 2. The Titans, power without right. The Titans were the first to misunderstand Zeus. They believed ancient strength was enough. They ruled before law, before balance, before consequence. Their authority came from size, age, and raw force. but not from legitimacy. Zeus did not merely defeat the Titans. He invalidated them. The Titanomachy was not a war of survival. It was a philosophical purge. Zeus did not seek to replace one tyranny with another. He sought to redefine what power meant. Under the Titans, existence endured. Under Zeus, it was organized. When the Titans fell, Zeus chose imprisonment over extinction. This decision was deliberate. Destruction erases memory. Imprisonment preserves it. In Tartarus, the Titans exist as living contradictions, beings of immense power rendered irrelevant. They remain conscious, aware that the universe now functions without them. Their suffering is not physical alone, it is conceptual. They are proof that power without structure is obsolete. Tartarus as a statement. Tartarus is not merely a prison. It is a thesis. By confining the Titans rather than annihilating them, Zeus ensures that rebellion remains visible but futile. Their eternal captivity broadcasts a single message across eternity. Strength that challenges order will be preserved only as a warning. In fictional expansions, Tartarus itself responds to Zeus' authority. Chains regenerate. Darkness obeys. Even suffering follows law. The Titans are not tortured randomly. They are contained with precision, their power neutralized but never erased. This is Zeus at his most terrifying, not cruel, but exact. Why the Titans could never win. The Titans fought with certainty, believing that might alone justified rule. Zeus fought with inevitability. He did not need to overpower them individually. He needed only to outlast them collectively. Their defeat was not a failure of strength. It was a failure of understanding. They could destroy worlds, but they could not govern them. And Zeus made sure the cosmos would never forget that difference. Chapter 3. The Gods Who Doubted. Internal rebellion on Olympus. Rebellion against Zeus did not always come from monsters or ancient beings. The most dangerous opposition emerged from within Olympus itself. These were not enemies driven by brute force or raw ambition, but gods who believed they understood justice better than the king of gods. Doubt, among immortals, is a far subtler threat than violence. Gods who questioned Zeus rarely challenged his strength. They challenged his judgment. They whispered of excess, cruelty, imbalance. They spoke of mercy, reform, shared authority. In doing so, they revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of Zeus' rule. Olympus was not a council, it was a hierarchy. Zeus tolerated dissent, but he never allowed it to organize. The illusion of debate. In mythological and fictional expansions, Olympus often appears as a place of discussion and argument. Gods quarrel, criticize, and protest. This creates the illusion that Zeus' authority is flexible. It is not. Zeus permits debate because debate creates the appearance of freedom. But discussion without consequence is not power, it is containment. By allowing gods to speak, Zeus identifies who questions him, who hesitates, and who might one day act. Those who crossed from doubt into defiance were never punished immediately. Zeus understood that open retaliation would fracture Olympus and create martyrs. Instead, he dismantled opposition invisibly. Punishment without spectacle. Internal rebels were not struck down by lightning. They were diminished. Zeus stripped them of influence, redirected worship away from them, altered fate so their voices lost relevance. In a divine system sustained by belief, obscurity is annihilation. Gods exist because they are remembered. To be ignored is to decay. In darker interpretations, Zeus manipulates time and narrative itself. The rebellious gods' myths fade. Their temples crumble. Their names are no longer invoked. They remain alive, but hollow, powerless, spectators to a world that no longer acknowledges them. This form of punishment is surgical. It leaves no visible scars. Olympus remains peaceful, but the lesson is unmistakable. Unity is preserved not through loyalty, but through silence. Why Olympus never falls? Olympus does not collapse because Zeus understands internal rebellion better than any tyrant. He does not crush it violently. He dissolves it. By the time other gods realized dissent existed, it has already been erased. Chapter 4. Mortals, Hubris, and the Theatrical Punishment. If gods challenged Zeus intellectually, mortals challenged him unknowingly. Their rebellion was rarely intentional. It emerged from ambition, pride, ingenuity, or desperation. the traits Zeus himself once embodied. And that made mortals uniquely dangerous. Mortals believed achievement equaled permission. That progress justified transcendence. They mistook divine tolerance for divine approval. Zeus corrected this misunderstanding with spectacle. Hubris as a crime. In Zeus cosmology, hubris is not arrogance. It is miscalculation. Mortals who reached too high violated the invisible boundary between potential and permission. Zeus did not punish them for ambition. He punished them for forgetting their place. These punishments were never subtle. Endless labor, eternal hunger, transformation into beasts or objects. These fates were designed to be remembered, retold, and feared. Zeus understood that mortals learned through story, not doctrine. Each punishment became a myth. Each myth became a warning. The rise before the fall. In darker fictional interpretations, Zeus often allows mortals to succeed before destroying them. He grants intelligence, power, or divine gifts, only to revoke them at the peak of triumph. This deliberate rise and fall is not cruelty. It is demonstration. By allowing mortals to touch greatness before annihilation, Zeus reinforces a single truth. All achievement exists at his discretion. Destiny is not earned, it is permitted. Mortals as instruments. Mortals also serve another purpose. Their punishments echo longer than divine conflicts. Gods remember. Mortals repeat. Through mortal suffering, Zeus broadcasts his authority across generations. Each tragedy becomes cultural memory. Each story reinforces obedience long after the original crime is forgotten. In this way, mortals are not merely punished, they are utilized. The final truth of rebellion. By the end of every rebellion, Titan, God, or mortal, the outcome is identical. Zeus remains. The cosmos continues. Order is reinforced. Rebellion does not weaken Zeus' rule. It validates it. Each challenger, believing themselves unique, unknowingly steps into a role already written. Their defiance becomes another chapter in the myth of inevitability. Zeus does not fear rebellion because rebellion cannot escape his system. And so the universe learns, again and again, that resistance does not rewrite destiny. It confirms it. Part 3. The Judge of Fate. Zeus and the Architecture of Absolute Order. Chapter 1. Zeus as the Supreme Judge of Fate. At the highest point of Olympus, beyond storm and sky, Zeus does not sit merely as a king. He presides as a judge whose authority surpasses strength, lineage, and even divinity. His throne is not secured by fear alone, but by the universal acceptance that his judgments define reality itself. In Greek cosmology, fate is often misunderstood as an independent force, an unalterable script written by the Moirai. Yet fate, in its purest form, is possibility. It outlines what may occur, not what must. Zeus exists above this threshold. He does not weave fate, he authorizes it. This distinction is crucial. The Moirai spin threads, measure lengths, and cut lives short, but they do so within a framework Zeus permits. Their power is procedural. Zeus' power is constitutional. Without his sanction, fate has no jurisdiction. Judgment as cosmic function. Zeus' role as judge is not symbolic. It is structural. He does not intervene in every event, nor does he micromanage existence. Instead, he defines the conditions under which events may unfold. When those conditions are violated, judgment becomes inevitable. In darker mythological interpretations, Zeus' judgments resemble laws of physics rather than moral decrees. They do not express anger, they express correction. When balance is disrupted, Zeus restores it by removing the disruptive element, whether that element is Titan, God, or mortal. This is why his punishments feel absolute. They are not reactions, they are resolutions. The authority to decide endings. Every being in the cosmos may begin a story. Only Zeus decides when it ends. This authority is more terrifying than death itself. To die is natural. To be judged by Zeus is final. His verdicts do not allow reinterpretation, redemption, or appeal. Once a judgment is passed, it becomes permanent architecture within the universe. In fictional expansions, Zeus is portrayed as knowing the future outcomes of every path, yet refusing to intervene until judgment becomes unavoidable. This restraint reinforces the illusion of freedom while preserving the inevitability of order. Thus, Zeus is not a tyrant who denies choice. He is a ruler who denies escape. Chapter 2. Law, Free Will, and the Illusion of Autonomy. Perhaps the most complex aspect of Zeus' dominion is his relationship with free will. Gods and mortals alike believe they act freely. They choose alliances, defiance, ambition, and rebellion. Zeus does not prevent these choices. In fact, he depends on them. Freedom, under Zeus, is permitted precisely because it validates judgment. The controlled space of choice. Zeus' universe is not a prison. It is a controlled environment. Within it, beings may act as they wish, so long as their actions do not threaten the foundational order. When they do, freedom ceases to exist. This creates a paradox. Free will is real, but its consequences are predetermined. Those who rebel believe they are exercising autonomy. In reality, they are confirming the limits of autonomy. Their failure proves the system works. Zeus does not interfere to stop rebellion because rebellion is necessary. It defines the boundary between permission and violation. Without transgression, judgment has no meaning. Law above morality. Zeus' law is often mistaken for morality. It is not. Morality seeks fairness. Law seeks stability. Zeus does not judge based on compassion or cruelty, but on alignment. A being may be kind and still be condemned. Another may be violent and remain untouched. What matters is whether their existence supports or threatens the structure of order. In this sense, Zeus is not good or evil. He is indispensable. Why mercy is rare. Mercy introduces unpredictability. Unpredictability invites chaos. Zeus understands that mercy, when applied inconsistently, weakens authority. Thus, when mercy appears in myth, it is calculated, symbolic, and limited. It reinforces Zeus' discretion rather than undermining it. In darker interpretations, mercy itself becomes a tool of domination, granted not to relieve suffering, but to deepen dependence. Chapter 3. Eternal Order, the Silence After Thunder. When Zeus has judged, the universe does not celebrate. It does not mourn. It becomes silent. This silence is not peace. It is submission. It is the moment after thunder fades, when all beings understand that resistance has ended and order has been restored. In this stillness lies the true nature of Zeus' dominion, not chaos, not terror, but inevitability. Order that outlives conflict. Wars end. Revolutions fade. Empires collapse. Yet Zeus' order endures. Unlike mortal regimes, Zeus' authority is not bound to time, culture, or belief. It is woven into the structure of existence itself. When Titans fell, the universe did not fracture, it stabilized. When rebellious gods were erased from memory, Olympus did not weaken, it clarified its hierarchy. When mortals were punished for hubris, humanity did not cease, it learned its boundaries. Zeus does not seek constant obedience. He seeks alignment. As long as the cosmos moves within the limits he has defined, he remains unseen, unchallenged, almost distant. His presence is felt most strongly not during storms, but during calm, when nothing dares to rise. The aftermath as proof of power. True power is revealed not in conflict, but in what remains after conflict ends. Every rebellion against Zeus leaves behind the same aftermath: silence, continuity, and order. There is no vacuum of authority, no lingering instability. The system absorbs resistance and emerges unchanged. This is the ultimate failure of rebellion. It does not scar Zeus' rule. It reinforces it. In darker mythological interpretations, Zeus is portrayed as deliberately allowing chaos to surface briefly so that its resolution can reaffirm his necessity. Disorder becomes a controlled demonstration, not a genuine threat. Memory as architecture. Zeus builds his empire not with walls, but with memory. The stories of punishment, transformation, and eternal suffering endure long after the individuals themselves fade. These myths do not glorify the fallen, they diminish them. They reduce once powerful figures into cautionary symbols. Through memory, Zeus governs the future. Each retelling renews obedience. Each myth reinforces the invisible boundaries of existence. The throne beyond time. Zeus' throne does not age. It does not erode. It does not need defense. While gods are born, evolve, and fade, Zeus remains constant. He is not the strongest god because he fights the hardest, but because the universe has no alternative to him. His removal would not create freedom, it would create collapse. In philosophical interpretations, Zeus becomes less a character and more a principle, the final limit against which all possibility is measured. The final silence. After thunder, there is no argument. Those who survive Zeus' judgment do not speak of justice or injustice. They speak of reality. They accept that the universe has rules, and that those rules are enforced without emotion. This acceptance is the final stage of Zeus' rule. Not fear, not worship, but understanding. Conclusion: the unchallenged horizon. At the edge of all stories, Zeus remains. He does not chase rebellion. He does not seek love. He does not demand devotion. He simply exists, unchallenged, unquestioned, unavoidable. And so long as the sky still answers to thunder, one truth remains eternal. Zeus does not merely rule the cosmos. He defines the limits beyond which existence cannot go. Conclusion: the unbreakable dominion of Zeus. In the end, all stories within the cosmos return to the same truth: Zeus remains. Titans may rise and fall, gods may question and resist, and mortals may dream beyond their limits. But none can escape the structure Zeus has imposed upon existence. His power is not sustained by constant violence, but by inevitability. He does not need to prove himself again, because every failed rebellion has already done so in his place. Zeus rules not as a fleeting conqueror, but as the enduring axis of order. His judgments, whether delivered through thunder, curse, or silence, reshape destiny itself. They leave no room for appeal, only acceptance. Even fate, woven by the hands of the Moirai, operates within boundaries he allows.
Part 3. The most dangerous god was never Ares. Hypothesis 3. Ares was the weapon. Zeus was the one who lost himself. Chapter 1. The myth was wrong about the enemy. History loves simple villains. In Greek mythology, that villain was Ares, the blood-soaked god, the reckless destroyer, the embodiment of chaos. But this final hypothesis asks a question far more uncomfortable. What if Ares was never the real danger? What if the most dangerous god was the one who believed he was righteous? This theory does not begin with war. It begins with justification. Chapter 2. The day Zeus began to sound like a tyrant. Zeus did not fall in a single moment. He eroded. At first, his lightning struck monsters, then criminals, then rebels. Eventually, it struck examples, not because they were evil, but because they were disobedient. Each strike was justified. Each punishment explained. Each death rationalized. I do this to preserve order. That sentence would become Zeus's most dangerous weapon, because once a god convinces himself that order matters more than mercy, the line between king and tyrant dissolves. Chapter 3. Ares as the mirror, not the monster. Ares noticed the change before anyone else, not because he was wise, but because he was honest. Ares never pretended his violence was noble. He never claimed blood was justice. He never hid behind law. Zeus did. In this hypothesis, Ares stops provoking Olympus. He stops rebelling. He simply watches. Every war Zeus permits. Every massacre Zeus ignores. Every atrocity Zeus calls necessary. And slowly mortals stop distinguishing between the god of war and the god of order. Both demand obedience. Both accept blood. Both rule through fear. Ares does not need to defeat Zeus. He lets Zeus become him. Chapter 4. The gods begin to whisper. Athena is the first to question it openly. If law requires constant violence, she asks, is it still law? Apollo follows. Prophecy no longer inspires, he says. It threatens. Hera remains silent the longest. She understands power better than anyone. And she sees it clearly. Zeus no longer rules because he is respected. He rules because the alternative is annihilation. That is not kingship. That is hostage-taking. Chapter 5. The fall that never looked like a fall. There is no rebellion, no coup, no thunderous overthrow. Zeus remains on the throne, and yet mortals stop praying for justice. They pray for mercy, a subtle shift, a devastating one. When people beg mercy from a god of order, it means they no longer expect fairness. In this hypothesis, that is the moment Zeus truly falls, not from Olympus, but from legitimacy. Chapter 6. Ares' Final Word. Ares approaches Zeus one last time. No armor, no weapon, just truth. You feared chaos so much, Ares says, that you became its administrator. Zeus raises lightning, but he does not strike, because for the first time he understands. Ares never wanted the throne, never wanted Olympus, never wanted rule. He wanted exposure, and Zeus gave it to him. Chapter 7. The silence after the realization. After that day, Ares fades into the background. Wars continue, but they are now justified by law, not rage. Zeus still rules, but he is no longer admired, only endured. And that, in mythology, is the most complete form of defeat. Chapter 8. Why this story was never written. This hypothesis was never canonized because it was too dangerous. It suggests that power corrupts even gods. Order can become violence with better language. The true enemy is not chaos, but certainty. Greek mythology preferred monsters. This story blames kings.
Part 2. The Underworld Awakens. When Death Stops Waiting. Opening. The war that does not begin with thunder. Wars usually begin with fire, with lightning, with screams. This one did not. It began with silence. After Zeus returned from the underworld, Olympus pretended nothing had happened. The gods resumed their feasts. Mortals continued their prayers. But something fundamental had shifted. Zeus no longer threw lightning casually. The sky hesitated before answering him. And for the first time since the Titan War, Olympus was afraid of something it could not see. Because the most dangerous truth was no longer hidden, Hades had not fought back. And that meant he was choosing the timing. When death stops, obeying it started subtly, not with gods, not with kings, but with ordinary deaths. Men fell in battle and did not arrive in the underworld. Victims of plagues lingered between breath and silence. Souls hovered at the edge of existence, unable to cross. Thanatos himself became restless. He still harvested souls, but the gates did not open. For the first time since the dawn of time, the underworld was not receiving what was promised, and Olympus realized the unthinkable. Hades was withholding death. Chut the panic of the gods. Athena was the first to understand the implication. Death was not merely an ending, it was a mechanism. Without death, war lost its meaning, sacrifice lost its weight, immortality became meaningless. Ares raged. "Let me march into the underworld," he demanded. "Let steel answer shadow." Athena stopped him with a single sentence. "You cannot kill what governs death." Apollo fell silent when his prophecies stopped resolving. The future no longer moved forward. It looped. Even Hera began to fear something she had never feared before. A king who no longer controlled consequences. Third, Zeus's first mistake. Zeus did what kings always do when power slips. He asserted it. He summoned the Moirai, the fates themselves. Clotho, Lachesis, Atropos. "Why has death slowed?" Zeus demanded. "Why does the world hesitate to end?" The fates did not bow. They did not answer directly. Atropos, she who cuts the thread, said only this: "Because the one who keeps the ledger has closed the book." Zeus understood immediately. This was not rebellion. This was accounting. Hades was reminding Olympus of something it had chosen to forget. Every god's power has a cost, and every cost is paid in death. 4. The underworld moves. Then it happened. The rivers of the underworld surged. Styx overflowed its banks. Lethe leaked forgetfulness into the dreams of gods. Souls pressed against the borders of reality. But still, Hades did not march. He did not invade. He expanded. The dead did not rise to attack Olympus. They whispered. They whispered to oracles, to madmen, to kings on their thrones at night. They whispered a single truth. The gods are not eternal. They are merely late. The realm Zeus cannot strike. Zeus gathered the gods. Enough, he declared. If Hades withholds death, I will take his realm from him. Lightning split the heavens as Olympus descended toward the chasm. And once again, Zeus made the same mistake. He believed power travels everywhere. The underworld did not resist. It absorbed. Lightning struck and vanished. Thunder roared and died, because the underworld was not a place. It was a state of being. You cannot conquer death. You can only arrive in it. And that was when Hades finally spoke to Zeus again. Not in anger, not in challenge, but in correction. You rule because they fear losing what they have, Hades said. I rule because everything they have eventually becomes mine. 6. The most dangerous realization. Zeus raised his thunderbolt, and for the first time he hesitated. Because he understood what striking Hades would mean. If Hades fell, who would receive the dead? If death lost its master, what would existence become? Endless suffering, endless decay, immortality as a curse. Hades was not Olympus's enemy. He was its foundation. And foundations do not threaten towers. They simply outlast them. Ending of Part 2. The balance breaks, Zeus withdrew again. This time, not in defiance, but in calculation. Olympus still stood. The underworld still waited. But something irreversible had happened. Zeus had realized he could not destroy Hades without destroying the universe that made Zeus king. And Hades had proven something even more terrifying. He did not need to win. He only needed to stop cooperating.